ahead and just say a quick hello. How's everyone doing? Nice to see you. And we're going to bring on Phil, and then we're going to get the show on the road. Phil, hey, how are you doing?
Hey, Christian, how's it going, man? It's time for some social chatter.
Absolutely. This is going to be a really fun show for everybody tonight. We've got a great guest. We've got Morin-van on for episode 136. And I just want to thank everybody who's taken the time out of their evening to just, to watch the show. We're looking forward to sharing what's new in social media this week. And there sure is a lot, isn't there?
Yeah, absolutely. There's tons of stuff, man. There's tons more than we can even cover in our 1 hour show. So, hey, Christian, if they don't want to miss any of the stuff that we cover or any of the stuff that we dug up this week, how can they stay in the loop?
So basically, we have a daily email we send out. And so what we'll have a blog recap go out at the end of the show, tomorrow after the show airs. And you can get that by signing up for our daily newsletter. You can go to socialchefs.com/daily. Or if you want the weekly update, you can go to socialchefs.com/weekly. So you'll be able to choose which one you want. But I'm excited about tonight's topics. I love talking about social media, but I love being able to give you actionable tips that you can take away from it to be able to apply to your business, whether it's a new tool or whether it's an update that makes you rethink how you're doing your social media. And, this week, here's the thing, Facebook, they've had this whole Cambridge Analytica thing, and everybody said, hey, it's going to blow up in their face. And I honestly don't think it has. I think it's actually helped improve things a lot. And that is evidenced by a lot of the updates this week.
Yeah. Absolutely. I mean, a lot of times it ends up being just a big PR gain for them. So just like, they say, right, any news is good news when you're looking for for earned media. Absolutely.
So who do we have as tonight's guest? We have Dorian Morin-van. Do you want to give everybody a quick intro about her?
Yeah. So Dorian is awesome. She's super colorful, super smart, and just adds great value to everybody in the social media landscape. I've been hanging out with Dorian for a long time. We got started hanging out in Carrie Yannick's social media masterminds group, and we've talked a couple times, but this will be the longest that I've actually been able to engage with her. And I'm really excited, Christian. This is great that we have her here.
Very nice. So let me go ahead and do everyone a favor and bring her on. And have a small little lighting issue here going on right now, but we'll adjust that. Good evening, Dorian. How are you doing?
Hey, good. How are you guys? I'm excited. I requested Phil wore his orange glasses, and he did. We matched.
Just for you. Yeah, we do.
I know.
And
love it.
You brought some fans, too. We've got Morris Lilienthal, Fernando Ramirez, and Jennifer Gove. I don't know if they're your fans or our fans, Dorian, but we got people watching. So you are going to be awesome. Right. We're excited you're here. Heck
Great.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Yeah.
So
it's
for
a
those
little
of you
late on the East Coast.
Hey, and just think, though, so it's even later for Christian. Christian, what time is it?
It's 5 a.m.
So it's
5
early.
a.m.
See, I got up.
Yeah, it's super early.
I'm a runner, and I normally get up at 5 a.m. So it's, it's a long day.
You're crazy, too.
I know.
But here's the thing: we'll keep the show short. We'll give you all of the latest news. We try to run through everything as quickly as possible. Try to keep it to 45 minutes. Sometimes we do run a little over, but try to keep it to 45 minutes. So it's fantastic for everybody who's joining. And I just want to say, if you're watching and you have other people you want to bring to the show, because it's a better live show when you have your friends on. Feel free to hit the share button. Go to go to socialchefs.com/BeLive. That's BELIVE. You can hit the share button, and that will actually bring up the live broadcast, and just share that with your friends.
Sharing is caring, folks.
So welcome, Joanne, by the way. Thanks a lot for joining as well. So where do you want to start this week? Or actually, first, Dorian, if people want to connect with you or they want to, if they want to ask you questions and whatnot, what's the best way for them to connect with you at the moment?
Sure. Probably Facebook.
Okay.
Yes, Facebook. That's where I spend a lot of time. I'm actually a community manager, so I do a lot of Messenger and So either on my personal under my name, Doreen Morin-van Dam, or under my page, either one. I'm still everywhere else, Morin Media. So you can find me there as well, Morein Media, Morin Media. So that's the easiest way. I'm on Instagram too, but right now Facebook is my first thing in the morning and my last thing at night. So that's where I am.
So you haven't. You have not left Facebook like everybody said, hey, delete Facebook. You haven't left, right? You're still there.
Heck no. I don't see that happening anytime soon. There might be times that I don't, I have to say weekends, I really try to unplug. Don't go on as much. I don't have to do community management on the weekends. So, those are times where I'll put my phone away and don't go on desktop. But no, there's great things happening. Groups are thriving on Facebook, and that's where my job is expanded in what I'm doing. So Facebook groups are a great way to build community around a brand. So that's what I'm seeing. It's really growing and expanding. Absolutely,
and actually, everybody who said, Facebook pages, you got to pay for like reach. I mean, if you build a group and you build a community, that's a great way for you to, to get your business off the ground, to get to know your customers. I mean, again, it's not take them from being just customers to actually being friends. That's a fantastic thing to do.
Yeah.
Where do you guys want to start tonight? We have a lot of topics to talk about. We
got to start with the Facebook Live monetization. I think that's a pretty big deal here, Christian. Facebook talked, there's an article this week in Marketing Land that Facebook is going to monetize live video to make creators on par on YouTube and other places so they can make some money. So, Dorian, are you doing Facebook Lives? Are you doing things like we're doing tonight, or do you have your own little show that you do with your communities, or what's up?
I did for my, from last year, I did kind of the speaker rounds. I spoke in a lot of different places. That's where Christian and I actually met in, Lima, Ohio. And as well as, Social Media Marketing World, we met there. So I utilized Facebook Live. I had my own little show, and then just live got busy, and, my project shifted. So like I said, I'm doing more community management now. So as a community manager, I do manage a fairly large Facebook group where I do weekly hangouts, and they're on Zoom. And then, we put them on Facebook within the group privately. So I am on camera, just not as visible to everybody else. So I'm very comfortable with that. I am in a process for the second time of trying to figure out if I can write a book. So if that actually happens, I know to utilize Facebook Live to start talking about it and giving people insight in what I'm writing. And so that's what I was doing last time. I was writing a book and building a show around that. And the book never finished, and that's fine. It was still part of the process. I've gone through most of it. But Facebook Live's awesome. But if I don't have anything to say right now, that's why I'm not having a show, because I see so many people going live and I take my time to go click on it, and then it's like, you're not really saying anything. You're wasting my time, so I don't want to be that person. I want to be purposeful. And I love what Christian's done with this show, that, I know if I come here, I get the latest articles. It saves me time. It has a purpose. It's great. And I think unless you do that, people are just not going to come back.
Yeah, I totally agree with you that it's so important that you have to have a purpose and you have to be purposeful. So I'm curious, though, now with advertising, I mean, Dorian, do you think, first of all, would you advertise on somebody else's Facebook Live? Like, would you do a pre-roll or a mid-roll, or would you pay to, maybe have a product or service or a Facebook group or something that you could advertise at the beginning or at the end for people? Would you use it for your communities that you're managing?
Well, here's the thing. As a marketer, that sounds super interesting. And I think I would like to use that. As a consumer, I think I would hate it. So,
really?
Yeah. So I don't know. I would be, it would have to be done well. Right now, like right in the middle of a video I'm watching, and then those ads come in, you know, it's a 15-second ad in a Facebook video. I usually stop watching the video. I'm like, I've seen enough. That's usually the point that I stop. You know, and I know other people say that to me. They say the same thing. So if they start doing it maybe in the beginning, or if it's, you know, well-placed product that goes with it, maybe it would be okay. But as a marketer, absolutely, I think, you know, you capture people, especially if it's a show that people watch a lot, you know, that people are interested in, that you know has a big audience. That would be, you know, definitely attractive.
Interesting. Yeah, I agree. I think the most interesting part about this is something that often people overlook. They see the monetization, but they loop something else in, and that is that Facebook is going to start looking at actual videos to make sure that there aren't these crappy repurposed videos that are still videos or still pictures with crappy stuff that loops over to fake people out. They're also cutting down and say, when you use live, is this predominantly live video, which I think is a pretty big deal for, you know, for the bigger brands who might want to record and push it out and still get the benefit of being live. I don't know, Christian, what do you think about that, Christian?
Actually, that's one of the things I'm excited about, you know, about the fact that, like, one, Facebook actually wants to police the content. Like, I like the fact that, for starters, one thing they're doing is they're going to let you upload a video beforehand to have it approved for monetization.
Yeah.
So this way, you know, for instance, people aren't wasting their time. So it's part of it says, you know, they actually seem like they're caring about the user in this case. And I like the fact that at the same time, you know, they want to police the content, and they need to police the content because, you know, there are right ways and wrong ways to repurpose content, and you can't use live video. You can't say, hey, I'm going to tap into the power of live video, but yet use tactics that are not, you know, live video itself, such as, you know, uploading a still photo or, you know, putting up, you know, an uploaded video, for instance. Like, they're making the user be honest and truthful with what they're doing. I like the fact that they're doing that.
Finally, because especially, I mean, what I see, a lot of news stations have been, you know, kind of gamifying that Facebook Live thing where, you know, they'll put up a map, you know, with weather or whatever, and they're not really live. And it's just so annoying. I click in, I click out. And, you know, and as people who don't know better, there's consumers who, you know, think that that's how you're supposed to use it, and it's not good. So I'm glad they're finally doing something about it.
Yeah, totally agree. I think Sarah makes a good point there that voice first, we're starting to see the end of the advertising impacts. I'd love for her to say a little bit more about that. I think it's very interesting that, you know, perhaps it's a voice under, a voice over, but live video, I mean, think of the newscast story, and you just mentioned that. Would we really have news if it weren't for advertising? I mean, come on. This is our opportunity to actually advertise in between some of these segments. I mean, and if I can control that, here's the great thing. Eventually, I think Facebook will have an ad inventory and say, hey, Christian, you're the host of this show. You can say which ones you want in there. So yeah. I don't know. I like it.
Well, and so the other thing also, you know, that's kind of coming out of this as well, they're coming out with, you know, they're trying to drive people to Facebook Watch. You know, they want you to, like, tune into, like, episodes. And I like the idea, like, for example, one thing they're doing with this is they're going to tap into it where, like, if somebody's searching for, like, a show, for instance, in Facebook, what's going to happen is they're going to also see they're going to bring up, like, a preview. And this is the part where I kind of am not entirely sold on this, but it's a preview trailer basically in newsfeed that will then drive somebody to Facebook Watch. I'm not sold on that. For instance, if I want to watch something, I don't really want to watch a trailer. I want to, like, tune into it, almost kind of like, you know, we go to tune into a show, for instance, or we go to tune into the news.
Sure.
You know, but
you're doing trailers now. Christian, you're doing trailers for Social Chefs, man. I totally disagree with you. I think that trailers are fantastic, man. 2 minutes, give me a preview, and then if you're good, I'm going to, you know, then let me subscribe at the end of that 2 minutes for the show.
In that case, I actually like your example, by the way. I wasn't thinking about it like that. I was thinking more like, oh, hey, I'm going to go search for something, and then like I'm going to see a trailer. I was thinking more like, oh, I'm going to go look for like a movie trailer and decide to watch a movie or a TV show.
But you know, Christian, that is how we discover new content, though. And that is, I have teenagers living in my house, and if I need to know anything about any industry that I'm not familiar with, I'll go and ask them. And especially YouTube, they know in so many different genres, they find stuff because of that feature. You know, they'll watch this video and then YouTube says, well, why don't you watch this? Because you watch this. And, you know, there's different videos behind it. And it's amazing. I trying to think of an article or an example. My daughter pulled something up. I think I was doing a social media audit, actually, in an industry that I wasn't familiar with. And she's like, here, you need to go look this. And she knew the name of the channel, pulled it up and said, look, this is, and it was exactly what I needed to use as an example. So these are teenagers. That's what they're doing. So if Facebook is going to emulate that, they might draw that younger crowd that knows how to use that and likes that search function. That's how they are entertained. They just look for new things, and whatever, you know, they stop at, you know, they stop because something made them stop. And if they can bring that feature to Facebook, it could be super effective. I know it works for young people. The ones that live in my house do that. They work like that. So, yeah.
And by the way, Phil, I think like you bring up a really good point. You know, like if you do live video right, it works. But if you just do like your one-off videos, for instance, and having a trailer beforehand doesn't really make sense in that case. For example, like what we do with the show is, you know, every week beforehand, like before the show, I put out a sneak peek. Here's what we're going to cover. Here's our guest. Here's how you can join the show. And then at that point, then you see me on camera, and then you bring in everybody for the regular show. So, from, you know, to your point, I think it's a great point, you know, driving that home. So thanks for you know, bringing that up, actually, because I was not thinking of it like that, actually. So.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, for me, I'm always trying to think about, okay, so what the heck could the business possibly do with this? And for me, right, that's just the key. Because I don't, you know, living in the now, you know, Sarah makes the point, the era of mistrust. In 3 months, I don't think anybody's going to have any distrust with Facebook again, right? We're all going to forget it. Now, there might be 6 of us that are still upset. But in 3 months, I mean, you know, my mom's going to go back to taking quizzes. My dad's still going to wear tinfoil in his hat with a flip phone. And the rest of us are going to do what we do. I'm just saying, that's what's going to happen. So, you know, I think we have a freight train here, folks. This is not your parents' MySpace.
That's a good example, actually. And by the way, you know, and I like anything, you know, with like Facebook, for instance, like they may do things that don't make sense at the moment, but there's always a purpose behind it, you know, down the road. It's to get, you know, mass adoption, to get people talking about it, obviously, as we're doing here, and then, you know, obviously down the road they bring it on, and hey, you know what? Somehow it obviously just works. So, you know, great update. So speaking of like Facebook, you know, this is one thing they're coming out with. You know, moving into like the next topic, Facebook has a whole new like set of community standards. I don't know if you all have had a chance to take a look at this. It was apparently 27 pages long, internal document, but basically they've got community standards now, and they seem to be a lot more in depth, as opposed to, you know, kind of how they were previously managing things on Facebook. Have you had a chance to look at those, Phil?
Yeah, I sure did. So it's interesting. One of the things that is a big uproar is the women showing breasts thing, and because breastfeeding moms, right? There's nothing wrong with that, right? That's very normal. And then on the other end of the spectrum, you know, women who are, you know, into pornography, right? Who are showing their breasts to sell themselves, and then in the middle, I mean, Christian, it's you and me going topless, which really, let's be honest, dude, nobody wants to see that. And we don't get schwanked for that because we're guys, but women have been. So I think it's nice that they're actually saying clearly that in some situations it is, instead of the whole gray area. I mean, the more descriptive you can be, the more it makes sense to people. And Dorian, as a community manager, I mean, you've got to be saying, yay, finally, they give me some real guidelines instead of stuff getting taken down for no reason. Is that what, am I guessing right?
Yes, yes. Within, of course, our own Facebook groups, we set our own guidelines and standards. And when I have one group that I'm in with 17 moderators, even though you have the guidelines, I just read that article. I think Facebook has 6,700 moderators. I mean, something crazy for Facebook, but we have 17. So even though you have guidelines, sometimes we go back and forth between each other and say, what do you think? How should we handle this? Should this be taken down? Do we think we can leave this up? And that's just within a group. Think about, the billions of people on Facebook, what one person thinks, how they interpret guidelines before, when they weren't so clear versus now. I'm hoping that it'll be a lot clearer. And I'll use, since you talked about the breasts, I have a client who's a plastic surgeon. So we talk about breast augmentation. So now we have breasts and we just literally put a little dot on the nipple and now it's okay. I mean, to me, that's a gray area there as well. Like how much can you show? I know that you can't necessarily do ads with those pictures, but they're left up. So, and I think they're a little more lenient on Instagram. They seem to be, where we can put more of those type of pictures on Instagram. But yeah, it'd be nice to get some clearer ideas on how they will judge it. And I still think they're going to get people reporting the same kinds of things, but they'll be more quickly have answers for these people and say yes or no versus just kind of letting them hang there.
Cool. I hope so. I hope you're right, Dorian. Those are some good feedback there. Really good stuff. So Christian, where do we want to go next, brother? Or you want to hit some more on this?
Well, I was just going to say, I mean, I'm actually really glad that Facebook's, that they're finally making this appeals process also something that people are going to be able to feel like, and this is a theme you're going to hear me say, like people are going to feel like they're being heard, and that's because Facebook is, Facebook's now going to let you, if something happens, you'll be able to at least appeal a process and hopefully have some content republished if you need to. So I'm really glad to see they're actually doing that. I think, these are changes that are coming about because of because of all the Cambridge Analytica stuff. But these are things as well that I think as a business, they're going to help you a lot. It's going to help you, for instance, because you're going to feel like, hey, I've submitted that to Facebook and it should be taken down. I'm helping police it. And hey, all of a sudden now, they're going to hopefully help, help you keep some of your content up. I think it's going to also temper some of the negativity, the hostility towards Facebook as well.
Yeah, totally. I think any time that you can be transparent in any kind of business that you have, and be proactive in putting information out versus reactive, I think it's going to be a good thing. Absolutely.
Yep. So speaking of topics, I mean, so let's see, we've covered monetizing live video. We covered the appeals process. Let's see what else we have here. So just a quick update I do want to touch on. This is actually some platform changes on Facebook. I don't know if you had a chance to look at these, but Facebook is making a bunch of platform changes. And these actually are going to impact your Instagram account. They're also going to impact your Facebook account. And the reason being is, they're improving things. But the other reason why they're doing this is these platform changes are, they're taking things away. So if you're using a third-party tool, say, maybe an Agorapulse, a Buffer, a Hootsuite, you do need to pay attention to this. If you're a developer, it's going to impact you because you're going to have to now go and revise your app, for example, or your software to meet these standards. But at the same time, you're also going to have to, as a user, you're going to have to be able to shift a little bit because this is not like, oh, they're going to make this change and the company is going to be ready for it. The company who manages the software is typically not going to be ready. So you're going to have a little bit of a lull there where you're going to have to make changes. Have you guys checked any of these out at all? Like what's changing?
I haven't seen what's changing yet, Christian. I just know that, I've read that they are making changes and I'm excited. I mean, anything you can do, I think, to make people be more social is a big win. So if we can get people on the platform more and broadcasting less, I think it's good. And by broadcasting, I mean, they're link litterers, people that just leave links. and it's no good for anybody. So I'm actually pretty darn excited that they're going to change the API in some pretty stringent ways.
Yeah,
so,
and some of these. Go ahead, Dorian. What were you gonna say?
No, I was gonna say, wasn't that happened a couple of weeks ago that Instagram changed all of a sudden, didn't give the developers any time? Like they said, okay, instead of 2,000 a day or something, they had like 500, and people just, all the tools stopped working, and it was just. On the other hand, it's like, well, then you actually have to be real, right? Let's get real with that. Right. I only just a couple of weeks ago started using a tool for Instagram scheduling. I know it had been available for a couple of months, and I was dead set against it. I'm like, it's Instagram. It has to be instantaneous. But I have like 8 accounts I manage, and I finally was like, I give up. So I did, and I love it, of course. It's nice to be able to schedule some stuff out and use that, but it takes away a little bit of that authenticity of being right there, because it can be scheduled when I'm not there and people are asking a question and I'm not right there. Whereas I was natively using my phone to post something on Instagram, you instantly get that reaction and you have a conversation. So now it just becomes another platform where you can dump and run. So, I hope that some of the updates will limit that a little bit again and, keep it authentic. That's the part that I loved about Instagram, that it was, fairly authentic. There were some tools out there, but they were kind of rogue. They weren't supposed to be out there. And, they opened it up and said, we can do it. And I wonder if, they're going to turn some of that back and dial it back and say, no, it's kind of diluted the platform, which I think in a way it has.
So and some of the updates that are coming out, by the way. So one of those is in this case, this is the Facebook API, but the Facebook API also encompasses the Instagram API, if that makes sense. Hopefully,
yeah.
So one of those updates, for instance, this was effective like today. This was published. This was April 24th. Effective date: name and biography from comments on your own media will be removed. You'll continue to receive username and comment text. So this is actually from, for instance, the Instagram API. So this means a third-party app will not see this information, which is, it basically means you need to spend more time on Instagram directly versus in your dashboards of these scheduling tools.
Yeah.
So just keep that in mind.
Yeah.
Yep. Bringing the social back to social, baby. Woohoo! I'm for it.
Absolutely.
Me too.
And here's the thing. It's all improvement. It's all about, and I think these are good things. These are good changes. They're going to feel like, immediately you're going to be like, oh, I don't want to now I have to schedule all this stuff ahead of time or now I have to be live. What am I going to, how am I going to adjust my time and whatnot? But I think at the same time, it helps improve things because, less is more in a lot of cases. And in this case, people were just dumping stuff onto their channels because, hey, I have a scheduling tool and I can schedule it out. You're losing, like you said, Dorian, you're losing the authenticity factor. You're losing the the engagement factor. You're losing the whole factor of I'm present.
Right.
People I think want to be able to feel like hey, I post something, they want responses versus hey, I posted hours later I get responses.
Right. So, then it's not Instagram anymore. Then we could change the name. I think the other change that I saw with Instagram or a new update was that you're now able to download your history. So I know in Facebook you can, but they rolled that out, I think maybe today or yesterday, that you can now start downloading. And actually was offered to me. I was on Instagram on desktop because I was doing research, and it offered me to download my account, the account that I was in. Said it would take 48 hours, and a report was going to be sent to my email. So that's a nice thing, that if you ever wanted to leave the platform and you wanted to keep your pictures and your text and your information with the pictures, you can download your history. So that's another new thing that just came out.
Absolutely. I just dropped a link to that in the comments for the show. And, this whole update, we talked about it last week about Instagram testing an export tool. This week, they have released the export tool, but it's only available right now on desktop, or at least I was only able to get to it on desktop. How about you, Dorian? Was it just,
that makes sense.
It was
right?
desktop.
Where else are you going to download it?
Right.
You can't download it
exactly.
to your phone. I mean, that just totally makes sense.
Yeah, that's because I had looked for it on my phone, and like I said, I was just doing some research, and I had pulled it up on my desktop. That's where because then I could take screenshots and insert it in my report. And so then when I left and I went back, it offered to download my stuff. I was like, oh, that's cool. That's the word it was. Yeah.
Awesome.
Absolutely. The only way I could see, here's the thing. They say they're working on a mobile version for like iOS and Android to be able to do that. I'm wondering if, if that's just a request that you could send. I'm not exactly sure.
Probably an upload or Dropbox would be my guess. Upload or Dropbox box,
right?
Whatever. Microsoft Spaces, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Seems like that's the way that they need to do it. And the key thing with all of this, I mean, I'd say, you need to set up a schedule, set up a monthly schedule or a weekly schedule. And you hear me talk about this every week. Try to schedule your tasks. The things you need to do every week to keep your business going. For example, if my Instagram channel was lost, I wanted to quickly find, for instance, a poster or a photo or video or something I shared, I might want to keep that file handy so that I can access it and get access to the content or, the post and whatnot that I've already shared. So this way you don't have to waste time scrolling back through your content.
Yeah.
So let's say we've hit on some Facebook topics, we've hit on some Instagram topics. What else do you want to talk about today, Phil?
Well, I think the only, the big thing that we should just remind folks of is that we're starting to see, we're in almost to the season where people are going to go to a bunch of trade shows again. So be careful if you're at a trade show about adding people to your newsletter and just scanning them when they're not interested because they want a free pen. I'm starting to see some backlash on that from some people, Christian, where people are whining about the fact that, oh my gosh, how did I get on a mailing list? Which, like it or not, if people mark you as spam, that hurts your business deliverability. So just be aware of that. Ask them if they really want to be on your list, and don't worry so much about numbers.
Absolutely. And here's the thing, so speaking of adding somebody to a list, you can, like I said earlier, you can join our list to get updates about the show, but that's something you have to opt in. You can go to socialchef.com/daily or /weekly. That'll let you pick which list you want to get on. You sign in with your email address, and then what's going to happen is you're going to get an email you have to confirm to be able to add you to that list. And in this case, like to Phil's point, a lot of times you go to a trade show, you go to a conference, you go to an event. Dorian, you probably had this happen as well. You give somebody a business card, and what happens? A few weeks later, you're all of a sudden getting emails from people for something that you never opted into.
Right.
That's not, you can't do that. That's not ethical. And actually, I think violates CAN spam, I think.
Yeah, it does. Yeah. I actually interviewed somebody from iContact today for one of my community groups. And I learned a ton about email marketing that I didn't know. But one of the tips he gave is when you're the one collecting the emails, whether that's when you do it in a store, like you have a brick and mortar store, at a conference, or, when you meet somebody, make sure that you send that first email fairly quickly, preferably within 24 hours, and remind them in the email and say, hey, it was great to meet you at XYZ. Be great if you want to opt in, here it is. If you want to, continue to receive information from me, but put them on, send them something that lets them opt in, but do it immediately so they remember. Because if you have a list, say in your store, and you only once every 6 months take those email addresses that are written down in a book and then try to upload them. First of all, you can't read half of them anyway.
Right.
But they're gonna
use an iPad, right?
Yeah, but they're gonna forget that they were in your store or that they purchased, and they're gonna mark you with spam, and that's terrible. So, there were some other great tips, but that's something that is important that people kind of forget. So the same thing with the trade shows, Phil. That's a super good point. That you don't just put people on that list without making them understand, by say you can win this, but you're gonna, put your credit card, not your credit card, put your business card in, and, then you can opt in. But, tell people what you want their email address for sure.
Absolutely great points. And I think at the same time, I really like the point that you said a minute ago about being able to tell somebody like to do it almost immediately, because like Phil said, you send somebody a blind email, for instance, or in this case, it's not really a blind email, but they forget about it. Right. Chances are, they're going to mark you as spam. And then the more people that mark you as spam, the more that hurts your deliverability. And, and that's why you should use a good email service. But at the same time, it's also, it hurts all your future mailings that you send. Doesn't matter if it's like a different list. It hurts, your account overall.
Yeah.
So great points, actually. Excellent points, actually. So let's see. We touched on that. Let's talk a little bit. We've got a couple more topics here. Let's talk about SmugMug real quick, and then we'll wrap it up with a little Pinterest and a couple tools. What do you guys think?
Yeah. Well,
okay.
SmugMug, right? Let's talk about that, man, because this is a big deal. Yahoo bought Flickr a couple of years ago, and everybody went crazy that Yahoo is going to kill Flickr, and now SmugMug buys Flickr, which should be very interesting because I've got a lot of my friends who used to love Flickr who now probably will love it again because SmugMug is a photography community. What do you think there, Dorian?
I did not know. I went away from Flickr when it was sold, and it was really good. And when I first started out, 7+ years ago, that's where I would go for pictures, and that's what I would find great pictures. My husband is a amateur photographer, and he put some pictures up there, and we really liked it. And then kind of went away from the platform when it was sold, but also when new tools like Canva came up that came with their own, 10,000 images that you could use. And so the need to go outside of that tool for me kind of went away to find unique images. So I haven't really gone to Flickr, but if you're telling me SmugMug is also photography, then that makes sense. And I am definitely going to be interested in checking that out because I do feel that some of these platforms, I was an early adopter of Canva. And so when I first started using it, I was one of the really early numbers. And, the images were unique and the photographs were unique. But right now, even though there's 10,000 images, there's hundreds of thousands of people using them. And so I can pretty much tell when somebody creates an image or uses a graphic that is made in Canva. So it'd be kind of cool to make something as Canva, but then, have an original photograph in there. So that sounds like a really cool thing for me to go check out.
Cool. Yeah, I think you should, Dorian. It's back. Hopefully it's back and better than ever. So I've got a couple photographer friends that I'm going to ask what they think because Flickr has unlimited storage as well, which is pretty crazy. So we'll see.
Yeah.
And I'm actually really excited about the fact that Flickr is hopefully going to get some new life here because, I think that this is going to help. One, I think the more you use these things, the more they help stimulate your creativity. They help you see like what are things people are doing. Are there certain artists maybe I want to reach out to and say, hey, can you commission some work that's unique for me? Because that's the key thing. I mean, it's not about churning out like cookie cutter content or cookie cutter images. Everything's starting to like look the same. And in this case, I mean, hopefully you're going to have, hopefully Flickr will get revived and you'll end up with, another photography community to go to.
That'd be great. Yeah. Cool. Very good.
Cool. Well, Christian, we're at 40 minutes, buddy. I think we should move right to the apps and share the Pinterest in our newsletter. Yeah, let's do that. Yeah. Apps.
So, and just to let everybody know, Pinterest, they've got some business profile updates. We'll put those in the blog recap for you guys. We value your time. So we'll put that in the blog recap. So let's talk about some tools real quick. I have 2 tools for everybody this week. The first one is called Unfold, and this is primarily for Instagram stories. It's basically, an iOS app in this case. Here, let me get the link for everybody here. So one is called Unfold, and this is an iOS app. What it is it's there for you to use for your Instagram stories, or you can use it for sharing on other platforms as well. So let me actually pull this screen up for everybody to kind of show you guys how.
Yeah, it's pretty slick. I mean, I'm playing with it here. It's nice the fact you can put 2 different pictures together on one page. It actually folds out so it looks like a flip book, which totally Instagram stories, Facebook stories, really neat. I went fishing today out in Tampa Bay, so I'm going to put something neat together for the guys that I went fishing with. I think there's a lot of potential here for events, birthday parties, retirement parties. This could be pretty neat to put together something like this, set it to music, or, I could sing too if nobody wants to have their ears anymore. I don't know. But yeah.
I think the other thing I think about this, like, by the way, this is a free app you can download. Well, it's a freemium app. It's an app meaning, it's free to download. It's got, some additional paid options, such as, adding some additional frames or adding some different colors and things like that. But where I see the value in this is, again, it's about being unique, creating content that's going to help stand out from, the competition. If everybody, for instance, is just opening their camera and everybody's got the same, for instance, if we all had the same background like Phil has here, for instance, it would look kind of boring, right? Like, hey, everything looks the same. It's sterile. So in this case, though, you get access to, some templates, but they help you make your story your own, which I think is, the key thing here. You could use this for certain parts of your stories. You could have another template or another app you use for other ones as well. Norian, have you used this one before at all? Or
no, I have not. So far, I have used mostly Canva to create stories, and to lay it all out. I was trying to find an app, and I think I found one, but I haven't actually actively. I found it, but then didn't actually open it and play with it. But to lay out the stories, I think Planoly is the one that I was going to look at. But this one looked interesting. I read a couple of reviews real quick because I did, look at it. And somebody said that you aren't able to choose the font. So I guess that's a limitation to the free one. I don't know if that's true or not for this particular one. And if that's the case, if you can't change the font, then, I probably wouldn't overuse it. Probably would be great to do some special stories or special things. But anything to make stories better and stand out and look different than everybody else, I think is great.
Absolutely. And then the key point to that, is like with the fonts, for instance, like sometimes a lot of these templates, what they'll do is they will stick to not letting you change the font because they don't want to change the integrity of the content. Right. They want the template to have a certain look to it. So just keep that in mind.
Yeah.
So let me pull up the last tool for everybody. So the last tool is called Heepsy, and this is also an Instagram tool. Have you had a chance to use this one? Have either of you used this one, actually tested it out at all?
Well, I checked it out when you sent it over. I think it's really interesting that you can find influencers. Again, first, I'm curious, how do they define an influencer? Is it a real influencer or is it someone who bought a bunch of followers? Because I can tell you, fake influencers are, they're like venereal diseases. You just can't get rid of them and they keep popping up when you don't want them to. So I really don't like fake influencers at all. So I'd like to see if that's legit. And secondly, I think the fact that you can do it by location is fascinating. I don't know. This just kind of smells bad to me, but we'll see what happens with it. I don't know. Christian, you found this app and brought it to us. What do you think about this?
A couple of things I really like about this. So I like the fact that you could go in and you could actually have specific criteria. For example, not just like, I'm looking for male, female in a certain location. You can delve into categories. You can delve even further, and obviously you have to pay for this. You can delve further with, for example, like if they have a certain post cost, how much they charge for a post. That's one thing. You also have the ability to specify a certain number of followers, as well as an engagement part. And that part, I think, is the part that I think I'm the most interested in with something like this. A lot of times what will happen is people will go and they will say, hey, I'm interested in, having an influencer, but, they don't look at the engagement factor. And I think the engagement factor is the key part here. You want to be able to have people, bringing on influencers who are going to actually get you engagement by sharing your content. They're going to have a very engaged audience versus, just like, hey, I've got an influencer that has 24,000 followers, for instance, on Instagram or something to that effect. So I think that's key. What do you think, Dorian?
Yeah, that's exactly what I was going to say. I did the same thing that Phil did. I kind of pulled it up when you sent us the link. And initially I had just put it on the top fold, above the fold. And it says, find your influencers. But then as soon as I scrolled down, it says check their metrics, their costs, and collaborations, but also there is the report where you can see the engagement. There's a percentage, but also like how many people and how many days and, you know, when they engaged and how many collaborators they have, and even, you know, their hashtags that they're using. And so I do find value in that. You know, if you're not using any tool, this is a great start, I think. If you're used to some sophisticated stuff, maybe not. But yeah, when you're just starting out and you're looking for either brand ambassadors or you're looking for influencers to work with, and, you know, you have a small budget, this is a great way to do a little bit of that, you know, recognizance on your own without having to go to an agency or, you know, ask somebody, hey, can you help me? Or do you know somebody? Or reach out. I think this might be kind of a cool tool to get started. Even if you just have a small project, you know, you could probably do that on your own using this tool.
Absolutely. And by the way, this is so it's from a pricing standpoint, you can get the free option to test it out. So there's a free option. It's $29 a month if you want the starter plan to do obviously some category filtering, some location filtering, you know, $49 and then up to $99 a month. If you want like full on contact info, social media, as well as some collaboration filters and even the ability to download some data if you want to get into the nitty gritty. But if you want to test it out, the free option I think is a great way to go to, you know, to do your due diligence, like to, you know, to give you a baseline to start with, to then work from, I think.
I think so too. I think so too. I mean, if you're just starting out and you've never done this and you don't really know how this is going to go, it's probably a great place to start.
Absolutely. Phil, anything else you want to add on this?
Well, the one thing that I want to add is as Instagram and Facebook change their API and their terms of service, I wonder how much more contact info they're going to get, because they've made it really clear that they genuinely are concerned about extracting private information from the platform. So we'll see what they do with that, because I'm involved in a little startup right now myself that will, you know, at some point in the future we'll share. That we're working with Instagram, and the thing with Instagram is they're really strict with data. So the fact that they're offering more data, I wonder if that's from their directory or from the Instagram API. So we'll see how that works.
Yeah, definitely something to consider.
Yeah.
So. Interesting. Okay. Yeah. Cool. Yeah.
So go ahead. Oh, I was going to say, so that's going to do it for this week's show from a topic standpoint and tool standpoint. Dorian, what's the best way for people to get in touch with you?
Find me on Facebook. You know, you can send me an email. Yeah, Doreen@morinmedia.com. Find me on Facebook. I'm on Messenger. That's really where I live, you know, Monday through Friday. Most of my work is there. And, you know, I'll go to the other platforms here and there, but Facebook is, as I'm doing community management, that's where I am. So that's a good place to find me. Absolutely.
You know, and I want to say, you know, kind of like, you know, you talk about like you're on Facebook a lot, for instance, and you manage communities, you know, and it's basically about being a product of the product. So like, for example, you know, if you want to get really good with Facebook, spend your time on Facebook, you know, and you know, be there. Don't try to be everywhere. Don't try to be on Facebook and Twitter and Instagram and Snapchat, Pinterest. It's too much to try to manage. You can't be everywhere. Put your efforts in the place you want to be known for, you know, build your platform there. And then once you've built that, move into other channels. That's the best way to do it.
Yeah, I think last year I spent a lot of time on LinkedIn cultivating contacts because I was doing a lot of speaking. So that's where the event organizers were. And so I did, I did publishing. I connected with people. I was very actively trying to find people to leave me reviews on there, you know, give me, really good feedback on my profile, build up my profile. And I did that, and I spent a lot of time. So if you'd asked me last year, I would have said, LinkedIn. I'm on LinkedIn all the time, every day, you know, several times a day, but it's really has shifted since January. And so now I'm on Facebook. I don't know what will happen. I don't spend hours on Instagram. I mean, I do post and I am there, but not hours at a time. So Facebook is really a good place for me to hang right now. And, we didn't really, a lot of these updates that are coming with Facebook, There's also a lot of updates happening to groups. Some of them are kind of slower to roll out, but now you can do units, you can teach in groups, you can your posts can have tags in them. There's all kinds of things that are happening. That's going to be really great. So if you already have a group and some of those things are rolling out, things are changing. Yeah. And if you're thinking about starting a group, this is a great time to start your own community.
Definitely. And by the way, speaking of some of those features, it's interesting you mentioned those. Like, for instance, the topics feature for groups, like, for instance, it's new to a lot of people. Like, we've had it for like 2 years for something like that. So it's interesting to see how long some of these features have been out. And then they're like new for other people, which it's nice. Let's get a good surprise every once in a while. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah.
So that's going to do it for this week's episode of Social Chatter. Phil, who do we have next week on the show?
Oh boy! So next week, don't we have Gary J. Nix? Is that right, Christian? Or no, yes. Jen? Is it Gary or Jen?
No, Gary, actually, I think.
Yeah. So Mr. McFly on Twitter. Gary is very, very energetic. He's wicked smart. It's fun. I mean, we've been really fortunate that we get great guests like Dorian on. We're going to have Gary on. I mean, just a lot of great people that are willing to share their experience with us. So Gary's been doing social media a long time. Like I said, he's a bit of a strategist and a really smart guy. So we're really excited that he's going to join us next week.
Fantastic. So I want to thank everybody for joining. And if you have if you want to get the blog post recap with some additional topics, feel free to go to socialchefs.com/daily or /weekly. That'll get you on whichever list you want. And we'll give you the blog recap. Dorian, absolute pleasure having you back on the show. Great
reconnecting as well. Thanks for having me. Thanks you.
I'm sorry I forgot my orange glasses.
That's okay. Hey, Phil, this was definitely the longest we've ever hung out, so that was fun.
I know. I
had a great time. I had a great time, guys. And I love your show. I'm a fan. So I sometimes watch a recap. I'm not always live since I get up early to run, but great information. It's a great place to get information and the latest updates. So thanks.
Thank you so much for joining. Well, we will see you all next week. Thanks a lot for joining, everyone.
See you later. Bye.